5 rockets fired at the Kabul airport this morning, intercepted by U.S. SeaRIM missile defense system. It comes as the president and defense officials warn of ongoing terrorist threats as the withdrawal deadline nears. Yesterday, a U.S. drone strike blew up a vehicle carrying a suicide bombers potentially, who were reportedly targeting the airport. Following this morning's rocket attack, President Biden has reconfirmed his weekend order that commanders prioritize protecting U.S. troops on the ground. Joining me now, former Naval intelligence officer and the Bramer Group chairman, Don Bramer. Don, just what do you make of the situation as it's unfolded with the death of those 13 service members and our rush to get out based on what the Taliban is dictating to the United States, essentially?
Well, good morning. Since past Thursday's attack, the intelligence information that has been coming in has claimed that we have acute and persistent warnings of imminent danger coming towards our base and our troops. So the last 24 or 48 hours are going to be extremely critical. $83 billion of U.S. military inventory was left to the Taliban and now possibly going to the highest bidder. So all you see is danger, danger, danger across the board. And since Saturday, the military aircraft have been deploying flares as they take off to try to thwart these activities.
What about the potential? Because again, if Americans get left behind, and there was this kind of messaging coming out of the White House of, we told them to get out, we sent warnings, as if it was the poor decision-making out of the White House and the Biden administration, that had nothing to do with it. It's the fault of Americans. Can we call those Americans hostages, essentially, if they are left behind when all of our troops are gone?
You can call them hostages, but you can first call them abandoned. And that's as this administration continues to pass the buck, leaving Americans, and to the latest word that just came out last night, to tell Americans to stay in place and maybe in a month things will quieten down, is absolutely ridiculous.
It's the idea that also that, and this kind of goes to the greater conversation about the withdrawal, Don, but how do we fight terrorism? Islamic radical terrorism without having actually eyes and ears in Afghanistan. We have abandoned those people as well. They're in hiding. And now you talk about the weapons, but we keep talking about this over the horizon capability. And I know that this drone strike used that, but we're expected to, as a nation, protect our country and our resources abroad using drones flying from the Persian Gulf and not having, say, CIA operations within Afghanistan, without having actual resources on the ground. And we're talking about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, which has continued to have a relationship with the Taliban, is still in Afghanistan. What is coming for the United States in terms of terrorist attacks? And did we foment that by leaving Afghanistan and leaving it the way we did?
Well, there's a lot of comments to say. The first thing I will say is that when you take all of your intelligence assets out of an area, you have limited your ability to verify and confirm actual intelligence. So even if you have the drones, you have this capability, you've limited your confirmation ability. Now, this is the second time that we've turned our back on Afghani people, the first in the late 70s, early 80s, and now today. How do we ever expect these people or anyone else across the globe to trust Americans at their word? What I do think, you're exactly right, the threat of terrorism is extremely high and should be high moving forward, because what we have done is we have unleashed or allowed the Taliban to unleash all these prisoners, these terrorists from these Al-Qaeda who said they will not turn their back on the Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, to now come together in a breeding ground of terrorist activities.
And I just want to point out, I was talking to someone who prosecuted terrorists in the 90s and said that I'm seeing a replay of what happened in the 90s that gave rise to Al-Qaeda, that the Taliban provided sanctuary to Al-Qaeda. And first they hit embassies in East Africa, they hit the USS Cole. Then again, if we need a reminder, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, and we are essentially repeating that over again.
Well, keep in mind, in its heyday, the Al-Qaeda paid the Taliban $20 million a year just for safe harbor in that country. Now they're all coming together. You're right. Here we are, weeks away from the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And the Taliban is stronger than it ever was. It's better armed, it's better classified than it was then. This is something that's very discerning to me.
Liz Peek, jump in.
Good morning. If there's been calls from some in Congress to extend the deadline, do you think that would require sending in thousands of more U.S. troops, or how could we possibly move that deadline back in order to get out more Americans?
Well, in order to extend the deadline, we would have to send in more troops, because at this point, as of Saturday, the UK had taken its last remaining troops out of Afghanistan. All of our other NATO allies have left Afghanistan. We're the last man standing there right now, and almost defenseless at this point.
What do you, Don, before we go, what do you see in the months ahead for this administration? Coming up on the 20th, and I repeat myself, but coming up on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, it's going to be a very difficult pill for many Americans to swallow, to listen to President Biden talk on that anniversary, given what's happened in Afghanistan, as we still mourn the 13 service members who were killed just last week.
Well, that was a tragic day for us to lose Americans in that way. And as we move towards the anniversary of 9/11 and we listen to the speeches and the commemorations, it's going to be really hard for Americans to actually think that this administration is truly sincere in its words. You know, as you mentioned earlier in your program, the speech that the president gave last Thursday did not come across as very heartfelt. So I think Americans are going to have a hard pill to swallow. But what I also think we need to consider is Congress needs to come back to Washington. We need to start asking questions, and we need to call for hearings as soon as we can to look into the oversight of how this evacuation took place and where they failed.
We know and there's been much discussion about President Biden throwing his military commanders under the bus about the withdrawal from, or the just abandonment of Bagram Air Base. And it was very clear in what Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said just a week and a half ago or so, that when he was saying that we were given a certain troop level and they didn't really have a choice. So that's just part of what's going on. But also, the Washington Post had some reporting yesterday that it was very clear about what happened with the Taliban taking over. Just before we go, the Washington Post yesterday reported the Taliban offered to stay out of Kabul and let U.S. forces secure the city. And then we told them we only need the airport. We could have controlled the airport and the city and evacuated everyone, but we chose not to. That was in the Washington Post yesterday.
Well, I think if you look at the situation with Bagram and Kabul, it is a clear case of cut and run. This administration has wanted to get out of Afghanistan as fast as it can, and in some cases has forsaken any of the responses from the Taliban and leaving Americans and our allies just to the wolves.
Don Bramer, thank you so much for being here this morning. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.